Hey folks, it's Lev. Welcome back to another video. For those of you who are new and you see in pronouns, my eyes are always red now. I don't know why. Like if you watch the other video I filmed, I said it looks like I'm crying, but I didn't cry, and I also said like it's okay if I did cry, but like it always looks red like this. I don't know why. It's a recent thing, which is weird, but anyway, today I wanted to talk about talking about how we can build healthier relationships with ourselves, and just like share what I've done and what I've found useful um, in terms of the steps I've taken. Also want to say that I see this whole thing as like a giant puzzle piece, and there's like many pieces to the puzzle, so there's like no one correct way to do this, and I acknowledge that there are like many elements that play into my own relationship with myself and how I see myself and how I treat myself. So the first thing I can think of that's quite important is understanding why it's important to have a healthy relationship with ourselves, and the way we see ourselves, like attitude wise. I think of it like this: what do we put our time, energy, and effort into? The things we care about, the things we find important, the things we find value in, the things that give us meaning, purpose, the things that bring us joy, the things, essentially, the things that are important to us, right? And the attitude and how we see ourselves part plays into this, because if we see ourselves as someone who's not worthy, someone who's not good enough, someone who doesn't deserve time, attention, and effort, then we may not bring ourselves to, I guess, try to develop a healthier relationship with ourselves, because we don't see any point in it, because we don't see worth and value in ourselves. And that's sort of like in a cyclic motions. Like if we don't see ourselves as having worth, value, or deserving of any of this wholesome good stuff, then we don't take action to treat ourselves right and how to learn how to be more kind with ourselves and all of that stuff, which then can feed into the thought again, and actually can feed into us feeling not so good, feel sad, feel like we're in this dark pit, and then that can reinforce or strengthen the thought that okay, I'm actually not good enough, and it just goes like this in a circle, loop, 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 loop. And in my experience, I found that part of building a healthier relationship with myself involves breaking out of loop, that that three-way loop. But I think it can go any way. Like it's not a single way. Like it can go like it's like double-ended arrows. The three of these things. It can go any direction. But for me, they all interact. And yeah, part of it is breaking out of that cycle. Breaking out of this sort of cycle for me was definitely not easy, and it didn't just involve me sitting here and you know forcing thoughts into my head like like telling myself I'm good enough, I'm deserving of this, deserving of kindness and all that. It did help. Like thought exercises did help to a degree, but that's not the only element in this whole thing. Like if I just sat here and tried to just do thought exercises all day, like I'm good, I'm worthy, I'm deserving, that's not the whole picture. Like that's not enough. Another thing about me is that I tend to like to find the deeper core reason why things happen, um, because I like to tackle problems from the inside, like the very core, and not just sort of find band-aid solutions to things. I like identifying the issue at the very core of it and then changing it from there, rather than the just putting superficial band-aid solutions. It doesn't it doesn't work in the long run for me. The band-aid solution, it doesn't work. Back to the thought thing, and so somewhere we can start is to try to identify where certain attitudes, beliefs, and feelings about ourselves come from. We maybe have been conditioned, which essentially means like the thoughts, beliefs, attitudes that have been imprinted onto us, or sort of can explain this better with an example. So in my case, for example, internalized transphobia, like believing that I am not normal, that I'm a freak, that I'm disgusting, all of those things is because I live in a society where being trans is the minority. Not only that, trans people are not treated as human for being who we are. We're discriminated against, um, judged, not accepted, not included. All of these things is just the world that I live in implies that I am not worthy and that I am abnormal for being myself. That's an example of conditioning. When I was literally the day I came out of the womb, all of these things have sort of started leaving a mark on me, and it's carried on throughout my entire life until adulthood, until I broke out of it. The cycle and the cycle of believing that. That's an example of conditioning. Another example is if we're like raised in an environment where the adult figures in our lives don't take us seriously, they shut us down, they don't listen to us, um, we start we start believing that the way that we can be loved essentially is to not listen to our intuition and do what other people say, and we don't trust ourselves because we've been shut down all this time, and then we start to believe it's like no point, and that like what we have to say has no value because it's just repeatedly shut down. That's another example of conditioning. Like if I was repeatedly shut down, I would believe that there's no point in me talking because no one's listening and my input clearly has no value. That's another example of conditioning. It just like leaves a mark on us, which then can carry on for years down the line. The first step to changing something is being aware of it and how it may be impacting us. So a little exercise we can all do is, sitting down with our thoughts and identifying what are the thoughts we hold about ourselves. For example, thoughts I used to hold about myself include I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I can't I can't live my truth. If I want to be loved in this world, I have to live a lie. If I'm to be accepted in a world where being ourselves is not okay. Those are a few examples of beliefs I held. Yeah, so you may you may experience similar beliefs or completely different. That's okay. You can just sit down and just try to identify how you see yourself in terms of different attitudes, beliefs, and even feelings like self hatred, for example, or feeling disgust towards ourselves is another example. Like you could also write all of this down if you like. Like I found journaling to be very helpful, because it gets it out of my head essentially, and not like it just takes the weight off for me, because I don't have to fear forgetting about it or anything. And whenever it's a bit too overwhelming, I'll just have it there in my notes, and I can come back to it whenever I'm ready, without fearing that I've lost it all because I try to block it out of my head. After we've identified some of the thoughts we hold, it can be helpful to try and dig deep and try to think about where did this belief come from? How does the environment impact how I see myself? Like, does this belief or attitude I hold about myself, is this what other people have telling me my whole life? Is this what other people have been implying to me my whole life? Is this what the society and cultural context and the environment that I live in terms of people, is my environment telling me this throughout my whole life? And this is not something I just came out of the womb and thought of and be like, oh, I'm XYZ. Um, this isn't necessarily easy work to go through. Like a lot of this was really confronting for me, and I do want to say that it's okay if you would like to seek help from a professional or even like informal support from people you trust and people who care about you. Like you don't have to go through this alone. It's okay to like seek support for it, whether it be informal with people you care about, people who care about you, your friends, families, neighbors, whatever it may be, community groups, anyone really, or it can be professional mental health support. And there's no shame in getting help. I know that seeking professional help for our mental health is very taboo in some places and it can be looked down upon, but I don't think that anyone should be shamed for being human and being vulnerable. Another little mental exercise that could be helpful is to compare how we treat ourselves versus how we treat the people we care about most. In my case, the way I treat the people I care about most, like my best friends, is different to how I treat myself. And when, for example, I think it's okay for my friends to say no to me whenever they're not up for something, or yeah, if they don't want to do something, I'm like, I want you to say no to me. Like, I'm not gonna get offended if you say no to me. But whenever it comes to me, I find it harder to say no to people and to things I don't want to do. And that's like one discrepancy I've noticed. The discrepancy used to be a lot bigger, but now I'm getting better at saying no towards people when I don't want something. Be like just standing up for myself and saying no, I don't want this, not now, and I don't have to justify it to anyone. Like thinking this little exercise back to the other one, like after we've visualized how we treat ourselves versus how we treat the people we care about most, it can be helpful to identify why is it that I'm treating my friend or the people I care about most in this way, but I'm treating myself in a slightly or very different way. And back to me, I'm saying a lot of my personal experience because I can't speak for anyone else but myself. For me, I treated my friends better than I've treated myself is because I see that they have worth, value, and they're really deserving of this. But when it comes to me, I'm not really deserving of the effort, time, and care I put into my friends. I don't see myself as being on the same level as them, and that's the biggest, the primary reason why I've treated myself differently to the way I've treated the people I care about most is because, yeah, I don't see myself as being as worthy of it, and that's the root. That's the root of it. That's the thing. That's a barrier. That's the root. But that is changing, and I'm doing work every day to break down all of these unhelpful ways I see myself and subconsciously the way and trying to break down the ways I subconsciously sabotage myself because of all of these beliefs that I'm not even fully aware of. Another thing I just thought of is asking ourselves, would I would I let someone I care about a lot and love a lot be treated this way or um go through this? And again, for me, the answer usually links back to, again, how I see myself as how I see the people I care about most. Another way to help ourselves and build a healthier relationship with ourselves is understanding ourselves. Like, if we, like, for me, I can't really help and support someone if I don't understand what they need and how they function as a human being. And the question I like to ask is, what is my operating system like? How do I function as a human being? What are my values? How do I live my life? What are the different pieces of my operating system that need to be in check for me to live the best life I can and function at a level where I'm happy and can do the best in life that I can with within the circumstances that I am in. Um, for me, usually if one piece of this entire operating system breaks down, then it will adversely affect all of the other pieces in the operation. So for me, everything is very strongly linked, and that might be the same for you or it might not be the same. It really depends on the person, and that's why it's important to try to understand ourselves. I'm just gonna throw a bunch more questions at all of you to sort of probe this thinking process. So yeah, what is my operating system like? What do I find important in life? What are the values that guide how I live my life? Um, what do I naturally gravitate towards when a situation happens? How do I respond to it? How do I respond or react to it? Why do I respond or react in this certain way? Is there anything about me that hasn't worked out so well and that I might need to change and give a little software update for? Or what has worked well for me? What parts of me have helped me? What parts of me have not been very helpful and maybe impacting me in ways which I don't like or sabotaging my personal growth in a way? What parts of myself should I keep that are helpful and are sustainable in the long term, and what parts of me do I need to like shed off and discard because it's no longer useful, or yeah, it's just hurting me rather than helping me. What do I feel conflicted in life with? Like whenever I come across this thing, I feel conflicted. What emotions arise when I'm exposed or experience certain things in life? Another example is that whenever I feel conflicted about something, it's usually because it's very far from how I would live my life and treat other people. And it's just like something I can't imagine myself to do. And it's just like so far from me. That's why I can feel disgust and a disconnect with things because it's so far from me as a person, essentially. Another good question is asking ourselves, why am I doing this? What am I getting out of it? For example, a certain activity or being surrounded by certain people or having certain people in our lives. It's like, am I what am I getting out of this? Am I finding this meaningful? Is this adding value to my life or is this hurting me? If it's hurting me, what are the barriers stopping me from exiting this situation or this friendship or this connection or this job or whatever it might be, like something that is toxic and has become unhealthy? What is stopping me from leaving, essentially? Another thing, a very important thing for me personally, is identifying what are the repeated patterns that come up, what are the repeated themes that come up over and over again. For example, if I feel repeatedly frustrated every time X situation happens, it's because I want it to change and I don't want it to keep happening. That's why I keep experiencing frustration at these situations that keep repeating itself. Yeah, identifying themes. Also, it can be helpful to identify patterns in our own behavior. It's like, for example, I know this isn't good for me or this isn't what I want, but I keep doing it and it keeps repeating. What are the barriers stopping me from getting myself out of this situation and finding something better? Yeah, I really believe that the identifying our patterns thing is very important as well because some things can happen without us knowing it, and we're just like stuck in this loop without knowing it, and then it's just like we're going on autopilot, and it's not ideal. I just realized I threw a lot of questions at all of you, but yeah, you don't have to like, I guess, just take what you find helpful from what I've said and just yeah reflect on it. I'm not like I'm not going to force everyone to like write answers for every single question I said. This is more me just putting it out there, and you can take what you find useful and helpful, and yeah, use it. Like this is essentially a resource. Not like I'm not forcing anyone to do anything. If you don't like to, or if you don't feel ready to, that's okay as well. Just take it at your own pace. And from there, after I identified things, I identify, okay, I don't like this is the way this is going right now. This I don't like the way I'm doing this. I don't like the way I'm treating myself. What can I change? What can I do to change this? And then the action step of what to change and what to do, it's really dependent on the person and the situation. So I can't really give a proper answer to this. It really depended. But I think it's important to try to start small. Like, don't set a goal or a milestone that's ridiculously big, because that can deter us from trying because it's just too hard. Just start small and be consistent. That's the key. Be consistent. It doesn't have to be giant steps. As long as we're consistent with something, that is what's gonna make change. Because if we trying to do something like this giant thing in one day and not do anything on the other days, that's not really going to help us, because change requires time and consistency with the effort, just doing a little bit of something each day. Some examples of my personal action steps include just saying no to people anyway when I don't want to do something, or if I don't want to do something, even though may feel guilty, even though I do feel guilty sometimes, and it's not easy for me because it's not the way I've lived my entire life. Like, I've always been a people pleaser and said yes to everything, and so saying no is conflicting for me. But my action step is essentially doing it anyway, just pushing past it, just doing it anyway, just saying no anyway. And then as I kept saying no, it just started getting easier as time went along, because I got experience in doing it. I broke down what has been normal for me and I created a new normal for myself, which is saying no to people when I don't want to do something, and looking after myself in that way by saying no. Just remembered, once we've established a new habit per se, we can link that existing habit to a new thing we're working on, and it's called habit bunching. It's like we already established one thing, we just add a thing on top of it and pair it together. So when we do this consistent habit that we've already been doing, we also do the other one, and it just gets easier from there. Um, Thanks for watching, folks. I really hope this has helped someone. Um, Even if it's one person, I always say, even if I help one person out there watching this, wherever you are in the world, whoever you may be, then I'm a happy guy. And thanks for watching, folks, and I'll see you in the next video.